Thank you. Ruth, thank you very much. Fellow Toastmasters and very, very welcome guests, if we have anyone with us today. Viktor Franklin, one of the greatest adversity survivors of all time, said, "The forces of fate that bear down on man and threaten to break him also have the capacity to ennoble him." Have you ever felt a time when the rug of life was pulled from under your feet? Have you ever felt despair and troubled and fearful? If you ever sat outside the room of a consultant for yourself or for someone else dear to you, waiting for the results of a very serious medical test, possibly cancer, a lung condition, kidney disease, anything like that that was life-threatening. Have you ever faced death and relied on your faith or hope or even on yourself? 90% of human beings will deal with some kind of tragedy, trauma, dreaded disease, serious accidents, pretty much what we are facing today. And our lives will be put into utter turmoil. But no two people will react in the same manner. Some will suffer with PTSD. Some will be chronically depressed. Some will not know how to handle their situation and will lock themselves in. And yet, some will cope using healthy methods that they have learned or they have practiced or that they are willing to learn at the time. Have you ever had someone in your life teach you this? Have you ever faced a time when you had to put this into practice? I want to share a story with you today. A story that's not too far from home. A story that each and every one of us will relate to, that never happened too long ago. And although it happened quite far away, it was though it happened right in front of our faces. It was September the 11th. And while many of us, early morning, we make a decision to meditate or to go for yoga sessions or to go to the gym, we had a gentleman named Jimmy Dunn who went to his local golf club to play golf. It was Tuesday, September the 11th. When he heard the news of what had happened, and he came running back to the cafe of the golf club, and he watched the television in horror. The first thing he did was to call his boss and his business partner, Chris Queckenbush and Herman Sandler. Now, both these people were not just his business partner and his boss. They had grown up in the same neighborhood, gone to the same school, and they were like brothers. He worked for a brokerage company called Sandler O'Neill. Their office was based on the 104th floor of the South Tower. And the plane that struck just burst into flames from the 78th to the 84th floor. But it trapped hundreds on the floor above it. A girl who worked with him always came to the office very early in the morning, Karen Fisherman. And when she was at her desk, she looked out and she noticed that the tower had been hit. So she made a decision. Should I get out of here? Should I stay? She made a decision to leave the building. But when she was coming down, when she was on the 64th floor, there was an announcement. And it said, no need to panic and no need to evacuate the building at all. It's only the North Tower that has been hit. So please don't worry. But because there were so many people on the staircases coming down at the time, she just kept making her way down. She was then on the 62nd floor at 9:03 in the morning when the flight 175 hit the South Tower. 42 stories above her. And if you can do the math, she was on the 62nd floor and it hit the floor 42 stories above her. Her office was on the 104th floor. She knew what had happened. Her colleague and her could not decide whether to go up or come down because of the crowds that were on the staircase. And yet they knew that their office had just been hit. One World Trade Center and the adjoining Marriott Hotel had also collapsed at the same time. While Jimmy Dunn kept trying to contact his business partner and his boss, because those were the only two people he could not get out of his mind, because he knew that they might have been there. And Karen and Mark, her colleague, made their way down. And Jimmy realized that there was no hope, that his two friends, his two brothers were in the office. Because Karen called him and told him so. Now the loss that this company faced was out of 171 employees. They lost 66 in one day, including the top boss and his business partner. The deaths left so many widows, children, and children without parents, all within hours. And don't even ask about the company's computers, paperwork, filing. Everything was destroyed and turned to ash and rubble. Jimmy Dunn was overnight turned into a CEO. And he had to stand up and he had to take command. But he faced some very important decisions. Should I dissolve the company? Or should I just let it run? He asked himself. Should I help these families? Or should I just not care? They aren't my family. Should I try to work hard to pay their salaries? To pay the insurance for their health care? To help them with some bonuses? To help their families who have survived and the surviving employees? What would Chris and Herman have done? He asked himself. And he knew that they would want to help those families and those employees. He knew that. So he called an emergency meeting of all the staff who had survived. And he made the speech of his life. He said to them all, I understand that y'all are at a point where y'all are reevaluating your lives. You may not wish to come to the city any longer. You may have lost trust. You may want to work for a post office or do some job closer to home. That's fine. But I'm going to put on my Brooks Brothers suit and I'm going to pay those salaries and I'm going to support those people and I'm going to support y'all if y'all stand by me. And I'm going to do it now. And he ended his speech by saying, if I was determined before, I am on fire now. But if you wish to go your own way, then please go ahead and do it. By the time they hit the first anniversary, he had borrowed a premises from Bank of America. One room. By the 17th of September 2002, he had hired 80 new employees. He had closed 59 deals and 15 mergers and turned over revenue of 52.7 billion. And throughout that time, he had not stopped attending funerals, families, paying healthcare, paying the bonuses, helping people, attending to rescue efforts, and never forgetting for one day what his two friends would have done. So I would like to ask you, during the time of adversity, whether we are facing it today or whether we will face it in the future, can we find the strength to soldier on as Jimmy did? And what can we do to motivate ourselves and others at a time of such a crisis? And can you find a purpose during these tough times? Something that you can hang on to. Jimmy decided to live and to give. What can you decide to do? Adversity or opportunity? The choice is always ours. Thank you.